in. We have Balaji Subramanian, the Vice President of IIFL Securities, who's also with us on the show. It was interesting, Balaji, that, Mukesh Ambani ended the AGM on a rather emotional note, saying that he has attended every single one of the last 45 AGMs since the start, right? So, and then followed it up with the whole succession plan as well. Whatever was spoken about today, does it give you more confidence in the stock? Do you think that there could be a re-rating upwards despite the kind of outperformance that the stock has already seen? Okay, I don't think my voice is reaching him. So, Balaji, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead,
please. I just looped in a little later than expected. So I think I missed the first part of your question. So, if you don't mind repeating, it will be good.
Sure. Just your overall takeaways, what stood out for you from this AGM and what's your view on the stock?
So firstly, I will comment on Jio, and on Jio, what we got to know is that the 5G rollout, at least in the 4 metros, will be done by Diwali. So that's an incremental piece of information. But as of now, we don't have any details on the pricing of the pack. 5G packs, nor we have, and I think there were some expectations on some announcements regarding a 5G handset from Jio. So we didn't get to hear any of that. And the other thing to note is that the company has announced that it would have a pan-India coverage by December 2023. And they have also earmarked rupees 2 lakh crores of capital investment. Of course, we don't know what time frame this investment would be made, but still it's a fairly sizable amount, considering the fact that they have already put in about 90,000 crores in terms of spectrum expenditure. So I think some of those finer details are not yet known, but otherwise, at least it gave some direction on where the company is heading in terms of its 5G strategy, where the chairman clearly articulated that Jio would focus on a standalone 5G network. And that is also a kind of, it was largely obvious, because that is the sole reason why Jio went and bid for the 700 megahertz band in these auctions. So in a way, that was kind of reinforcing what was known. But otherwise, we just have this extra bit of information, and also the fact that Jio will complement its ongoing FTTH rollout with the FWA, which is the technology that you can offer over wireless, which will offer speeds and throughputs which are similar to fiber. So yes. We also know that Jio would be focusing on FWA using 5G. In the next few months.
That's right. So 5G thrust definitely, but let me go also to Devin Choksi, who's been patiently waiting. Devin, good to have you on the show. What do you make of the new investment cycle which has been kick-started in O2C business?
Good afternoon, Nisha. Well, I think the overall growth, I think, in the entire O2C business, I think as we see, in different product verticals, I think, which they talk about, including into the vinyl segment. They are basically talking about doubling the size or more than doubling the size in many cases from here on, I think, next 3 to 4 years time from now. So which means that I think the continued activity in this O2C business, I think, also continues. Largely, I think, attributed to the higher amount of, I think, demand getting generated into the system because of the economy growing. So on one side, you have the new material business segment, I think, which is growing. On the other side, I think the conventional business also, I think, catching up with the demand, and the investment is going into that. Carbon fiber business in particular, I think, is basically attracting higher amount of attention now, because that's a material which is going to be the material of future, be it in automobiles or be it any other engineering products. I think this is one material which is going to have significantly larger demand. And that's where I think for the first time a clear-cut roadmap has been spelled out for investing further sum of money into the carbon fiber. So in my viewpoint, I think given the kind of roadmap of investment of around 75,000 crores over the next 3 to 4 years time, we thus again suggest that I think the current O2C business, I think, which is in the vicinity of around 50,000-60,000 crores EBITDA, I think could possibly, I think, continue to grow in the vicinity of around 12 to 15% going forward on a sustainable basis.
Okay, 75,000 crores to begin with, and then once they see the scalability, I think Mr. Mani said that could be doubled as well. Naveen Kulkarni is also with us. Naveen, good to have you with us here. Thanks for waiting. Again, to go back to telecom, what's the route for you?
Yes, sir. Telecom looks fairly interesting because Jio has already bought out a lot of spectrum for 5G services. And interestingly, the chairman put out clearly that they will be using multiple bands, including the 700 megahertz band for coverage, right? So that's a very, very interesting proposition that we are looking at. So we are looking at one pan-India standalone 5G technology rollout happening by December 2023 using multiple bands. And of course, with the kind of throughput that we are looking at. So this is going to be, I would say, a major growth engine for Jio over next to 3 to 5 years, right? So that is very, very critical. So Jio, of course, has reached a certain market share in terms of subscriber base and, of course, the product penetration. But with the kind of investments that we are looking at 5G and with newer aspects coming, which is machine-to-machine communication, more and more broadband communication, I think the growth path for Jio becomes even more clearer. So I think these are good steps that the company is taking to create immense value in this part of the business.
Okay, let's get Prabal Sen into the conversation as well. Prabal, in the oil to chemical business, we are clearly entering the next leg of growth for Reliance Industries. They've announced a 75,000 crore investment over the next 5 years. Your thoughts on how this business could grow and eventually reflect in the stock as well?
Well, I think the number was definitely a surprise for us, after the kind of capex expansion that had already happened in the petchem and OTC space, and with the increasing focus on new energy businesses. I think, frankly, the impression that we had was that there would be some specialty chemicals diversifications that would happen down the line, but the initial focus would remain on the new energy businesses. But, Reliance has managed to surprise with a fairly large amount of petrochemical, specifically the polyester chain capex. So to that extent, one will have to obviously see the economics of how that works out and what kind of returns they are looking for it. Yes. But yes, I mean, the OTC investment alongside, continued expansion of the green energy businesses, and of course the very large capex that was announced for the digital services businesses, means that I think the FCF yield will probably continue to remain fairly modest, and returns, of course, are something that they have shown that they have generated world scale EBITDA and EBIT from each of the new businesses that they've set up over the last 5 years. So, the next 5 years will also be fairly interesting to look at how they can convert these kinds of investments into, earnings growth as well, and build on top of what is already a peer leading earnings growth trajectory for the next couple of years that is already there in the street estimates. Right.
Thanks so much, Prabal, for giving us your first thoughts on the AGM and how do you look at it. Yes, surprise on the O2C business investment. That's what came from you. But 5G rollout is what everybody has been excited about. So thank you so much, Devin, Prabal, Balaji and Naveen for joining us. And it's a wrap from my entire team on this special coverage from Sonia, Prashant and myself. Thanks so much for tuning in.